it's Lisa. I didn't think I really had any photographs from Christmas of this last year. We didn't really take any pictures at events that we went to. We went to a party where we've been a few years now, but I just don't really know people that well. It's a group my husband belongs to, and he's not a super active participant. We did go to the Christmas party. Nobody else takes pictures, so I just kind of feel awkward doing that. And then I went to an event that was new to me and had a lot of fun, but I didn't take any photographs there this year, and I definitely will next year as I've gotten to know more of these ladies. But when I was going through pictures, just looking for some kind of everyday stuff that I could summarize, over the last few months and do a page of, everyday things, I pulled out several photos from my Instagram, and I realized I have quite a bit of Christmas stuff because that party that I went to, I won one of the door prizes, and I took a picture of it and I put it on Instagram. I have the cinnamon rolls that I photographed that I made at Christmas. Something my husband had always wanted me to make was homemade cinnamon rolls. Participated in a card swap, so I had a photograph of many of the cards. I received 99 cards total, including my family and friends cards. So just one more. My mother said, I bet you have 100. She was so close. And this was just a little mini version of the dessert that I took to some of the parties. Went to visit a friend, and we see each other on holidays, and sometimes we take pictures and sometimes we don't. But her dog got under the Christmas tree and she looked just so cute. I had to take her photograph, and so there I had that one that I could represent our getting together at Christmas. And I do have a photo of my mom. I took her to an event. She looks stunning. And so I wanted to capture these to talk about the holidays and the things we did. We did some new traditions and some old traditions, and just kind of summarized Christmas that way. And I remember when I was looking at Christmas papers for another layout, I thought, God, I got all these great papers, but I'm not going to be able to use them. Well, I am. These are from Fancy Pants, and they will get used, if not for this layout, for cards, because they are wonderful small print papers. I got in a warehouse box last year or maybe the year before, and I haven't used any of them. So let's cut some of them up, and then I know I can cut them up more when I get ready to do my cards for this year. There's a lot of papers here, so I'm going to eliminate ones that I know I'm not going to use. For example, these with the music print on them, great papers, but that's just not relevant to, we didn't go to anything musical. Sometimes we do, and we usually do, and we didn't this year. The snow ones, I've got other layouts I can do with the snow, so I think I'm just going to set that aside. This stripe, I've got 2 sheets of that. I really like this stripe, and I like these trees. So I like all these things with red because there's a lot of red in the photos. This is good. It's the back side of that. If I need some solids, I know they're there. There's the wreath. I don't know. The wreath's not bad. This one is a beautiful print, but it's awfully, it's an awful lot of print, and it's about the same scale as what's in a lot of these photos, so I think it would compete. So I think we're just going to take that one out of the running for now and leave these here. So I've got a lot of papers here. I may need some of those solids because I've got a lot of the same kind of colors going on, and I may need a little bit of contrast. So I'll probably grab that red. Where's the solid red? The red was the back side of this, so I'll probably end up with some of that red in there. I might even use that for my background, I don't know. So I'm going to cut these photos up, and what I'm thinking about doing is, let's take the red one. I could, it's very tempting to do a grid page. It would make a great grid page, is to divide these out, do like a 3x3 grid, and then use the other blocks for journaling and embellishments, that kind of thing. That would make a great page. I've done a lot of those. And I always have fun doing grid pages. Grid pages are great when you have small amounts of paper or small scale prints. But if I do a grid page, I'm only going to use a tiny little bit. And I think I'd like to use some strips of paper. So I'm thinking of doing these like in 3 columns of photos. and then spread some journaling out in between them and maybe stagger them a little bit, and then put maybe one embellishment group, or might do a small embellishment group and a larger embellishment group in the title. I got rid of many of my Christmas stamps this last year. I didn't even use stamps on the cards that I made for family and friends. I used stamps on cards that I made for other folks. I say I got rid of them. I think I still have some though that didn't sell. So let me see what else I have. I now remember where I put them. But I have this stamp that goes with the tag punch. I don't have the tag punch. The stamp set was gifted to me. I never bought the tag punch, but it's really easy just to stamp this and trim it out and make a cute little tag. So I thought this would be really good. And let's see what else I have. I may have something else that I can do, stamped embellishments. Since I don't buy a lot of Christmassy product, this didn't come with any embellishments, I don't have tons of embellishments. So we're going to make our own, and I just need to narrow down my papers and decide which ones that I want to use for some strips here. I'm thinking, I really like that. I always love stripes. I might use a little bit of this, but I'm wondering about some of the geometrics. I like these two. And then we have this plaid. These three would be really great on there. I might use a little bit of this. I like it a lot, but it's bold. So, and I don't want to... so I don't want to overpower my photos. So I'm thinking those three and just a little bit of this as an edging, so you can put just a tiny bit of this. This is the kind of thing that I was making window treatments. I would take a plaid that ran diagonally and cut little, a small strip of it, or take a regular plaid and cut it on the bias and make a border, and it just really made things pop just beautifully. So I'm going to kind of do the same kind of thing here.
I decided to use a piece of my regular cardstock rather than using the designer paper, since I had some red cardstock that matched really well. It's a discontinued color, Riding Hood Red, so I can just go ahead and use a piece of that. It gives it also a little bit sturdier background. The three pieces that I have picked out to go behind the photos, I want to make sure that the lettering that I have is going to really pop on this, and I'm probably not going to run them all the way to the bottom of the page, but I'm also checking to make sure I have enough of each letter to form old and new traditions, which is what I want to say in the three different types of thickers. Kind of getting an idea where I'm going to place these and where I need to cut them at. To be sure of that, I'll just go ahead and lay my letters out. I had two different reds there that I was working with. This one is a brand new one, and I really like how these very shiny letters in this more modern font, to me, that says new. So I thought those were a little bit better than the other red font that I had, which was just a little bit too small. Now, Traditions is not going to show up on those plaid and printed papers, so I'm going to have to put something else behind those. And it looks like that blue-green, it's the back of one of the pieces. It's in a solid. It matches the papers really well, and it's going to work for Traditions. So we'll just mark where I'm going to cut the papers. I can measure, but this is just going to be, eyeing it, I think will work better. I did find some stamp sets that I had not sold last year when I was going through my stamp sets, and I can use some of those for embellishments. I've gone ahead and trimmed my papers down and looking at this plaid for a little bit of edging, and it really looks great with those small prints. It's got a lot of deep color to it, and it shows up nicely even with just a small edge. Now, I thought that one of my stamp designs, create sort of a border, would make a nice border to go around the photos. And I wasn't brave enough to stamp it directly on the designer paper in the photo, even with the archival ink, because it's too many different layers there and it's just not going to be good and flat. So I'm stamping it on some transparency film. This is the same kind of film you would run through a copier to make transparencies, or people used to. I don't know that people make transparencies much anymore, but I still had some of this film. And you can use archival ink. You do need to let it dry, and I did not let it dry as long as I should have, and I smeared it this first time through. But I was kind of seeing if it was going to work, what it was going to look like, and experimenting with if I was going to color it in and what I would color it in with. And I got out some of my Faber-Castell big brush markers, which are permanent and would work well on this film, except that they are too large. I can't color this design and it looked good with those markers. So that was an experiment that didn't end up working out really well for me. So I had to go through my other markers. I'm trying the Stampin' Up! Markers, but Stampin' Up! Markers are water-based and they're just not really taking to this film. And I think the first time I stamped it, I used a regular stamp block and it smeared a little bit, so I thought, this is what I have the stamp platform from Tim Holtz for. So I redid them and I got a nice image, and what I found to color them with were the zig markers. These are some old markers. If it kind of messed up the marker to color on that type of transparency film, I wouldn't have cared, because I'm getting, they are now about 17 years old, and some of them are going out of my craft room anyway, so it just didn't matter to me. But those worked really well. Now I'm pulling some washi tape out here to create an idea I saw on Pinterest, where you use the washi tape to make your page a little bit interactive, and we'll see that a little bit more in just a few moments. I've got quite a bit of journaling, and I'm going to need to put some of it behind the photos, because I'm covering several different events here on this one page. The word old is going to be up a little bit on that first sheet of paper, so I thought I'd fill in the bottom with a piece of twine, and then I can hang that little tag stamp from that stamped image, which I'll do here in just a moment. Now you'll see what I use the washi tape for is I put it just along the top of the photo, and then the photo flips up and the journaling's underneath. Now I'm coloring in my stamp with a bunch of different, in this case, Stampin' Up! Markers. That's what I use the most, because I can use them on stamps or I can color with them. I don't do tons of coloring. Coloring is not my best event, and I don't enjoy it as much as a lot of people do. So I have found the Stampin' Up! Markers to be perfectly adequate for the different things that I need to do. I've got some other kinds of markers around here, but these are the ones I turn to the most. And we got a pretty good image the very first time. I have to fill in just a little bit of some straight lines that didn't take, and do that, and then cut this out. I'll end up matting this on a little piece of cardstock. I think it was some gray cardstock I had hanging around there that looked good, and use some glossy accents to glue a few things down, including those pieces of transparency film. Now I felt like I needed something to sort of tie the whole page together, because there are a lot of elements here, and that's one of the things enamel dots are great for, because they're just a solid color and you just scatter them around, in this case 3 different groupings, and they really pull the page together. And that's where I'm putting a few dots on the transparency film. You never see that glue, and with the color on there, it just shows up just delicately around the photos.
I have really enjoyed working on this page. There have been a lot of little elements. I've done it over 3 or 4 days, just bits and pieces here and there, and it's really been fun. And I think it tells a lot of stories, because it covers the whole Christmas season, starting in early December through the end of the month. So let's take a closer look at it. What I did with this journaling is I just mounted it on some cardstock, and I put a little bit of washi tape that I had tried down here at the bottom. It was a bit much, so I had some of that pulled out already. So I've got journaling in there. I have some journaling under these that are flipped up where I just have a piece of washi tape across the top there. That's something I saw on Pinterest. I wish I could take credit for that idea, but I can't. And then the enamel dots kind of help to tie the page together with all of its different sections, with each paper matted with some type of pattern paper. Little stamping for the embellishment. Didn't end up with tons of embellishments because we've got a lot of photos here, we've got a lot of story to tell, so we don't have room for tons of embellishments on the page. But I did add a little bit something subtle here. This probably took the most time, stamping that in Stays On and then figuring out a way to color it, and then the color would stay put. And these zig markers worked really well for that. So this is my Christmas page for 2017, and there's a reference to the date in some of the hidden journaling, but I'll probably put, even if I just write it on here, 2017 down here, so I'll know that that's what this year was. So thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed today's page. I love getting your feedback. I know you like pages where there are lots of photos, and you'll probably see more and more of those as I'm trying to do pages where I don't end up with so many albums, where I'm trying to, you know, condense things a little bit and not end up with tons and tons of albums. And this is a way to do that, to cover the whole holiday season with one page. So you don't have to do it that way. It's just a nice option to do. So anyway, thanks again. Bye.